If you genuinely believe your financial chaos is just some biological trait you inherited from your parents, you are actively giving the modern economy full permission to crush you. Like the lazy excuse that you're just genetically bad with money. That's just a comforting story you tell yourself to avoid the real work of saving your own life.
Right. It's a complete anesthetic.
Welcome to AI Market Mint.
Turn AI into income. Turn knowledge into freedom. Your digital HQ for smart wealth creation.
Though I hear people say this all the time, right? Like, I'm just naturally bad with money.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's almost a defense mechanism for the modern middle class.
Exactly. It's a defense mechanism. And when you look at the math, just earning more money doesn't seem to fix the issue at all. I mean, I know highly intelligent software engineers pulling in $200,000 a year, and they are still living paycheck to terrified paycheck.
Wow, yeah. Earning more doesn't automatically rewrite the bad code.
No, it doesn't. So if being broke is just a habit, like what is actually going on with these high earners?
Well, it really comes down to an internal money script. Earning a higher income doesn't magically fix a deeply broken system running in your head. Poverty, in many ways, is a heavily conditioned psychological state. It is not a DNA sequence.
Right, it's programming.
Exactly. Blaming your bloodline or your parents is just, like you said, it's an anesthetic. It numbs the pain of admitting that your financial situation is actually completely in your control.
Because taking control is terrifying.
100%. Because if your subconscious is coded for scarcity, you will unconsciously sabotage any excess capital you generate. You will literally find ways to burn the cash just to return to your comfortable baseline of stress.
Wait, so they burn it to get back to the stress?
Yeah, because the stress is familiar.
Yeah.
Think about a guy like Steve, just a fictional example. Steve is a mid-level manager, right? He lands a massive $60,000 corporate bonus.
Okay, so he's suddenly flush with cash.
Right. But instead of buying scalable assets, he immediately goes out and finances a depreciating luxury car he definitely does not need. Why? Because holding wealth conflicts with his deep-seated identity as a struggling underdog. He is terrified of the actual responsibility of holding capital.
I mean, I have to push back a little on the idea that this behavior is just irrational, though.
How so?
From a mechanical standpoint, his brain is treating that excess capital like a biological virus.
Oh, like a foreign invader.
Yes, the luxury car is just the body's immune response to forcefully sweat it out. His entire historical identity is built around constantly fighting to survive. So suddenly having a surplus, it feels dangerous to that core identity.
That is a perfect way to frame it. It's an identity conflict.
Hmm.
He willingly trades long-term financial security for this fleeting hit of status, strictly to relieve the intense psychological tension of having unassigned money.
It's wild when you put it like that.
We treat personal finance like it's a clean math problem, but it is actually a highly volatile psychological game.
Yeah.
You simply cannot out-earn a fundamentally flawed money mindset.
Which completely explains the cognitive dissonance we see today. We are running around with these ultra-modern tech jobs, but our brains are still clinging to this century-old factory programming. How did an entire generation get wired with such a toxic, self-destructive financial operating system?
You have to look at the historical root. The foundation of this specific problem was constructed during the Industrial Revolution.
Ah, the public education system.
Exactly. The global public education system was explicitly engineered to produce obedient, compliant factory workers. They did not want autonomous capital allocators. Think about the physical structure of a legacy school. The bell rings, you move to your station. The bell rings again, you take a scheduled break.
It was literal conditioning for the assembly line.
Yes. They needed a predictable workforce that would happily trade their non-renewable time for a fixed linear wage. They explicitly needed total compliance. Because if you teach the general population how to leverage capital and build independent assets, they stop showing up to the factory.
The industrial machine would have totally stalled.
Exactly. So the architects deliberately stripped practical financial literacy from the standard curriculum. They conditioned us to falsely believe that hoarding cash in a retail bank account was the pinnacle of mature responsibility.
While simultaneously normalizing massive consumer debt.
Right. They normalized heavy consumer debt as a mandatory part of entering adulthood. They engineered a society where financing your basic existence just became the default setting for survival.
And the legacy banking system capitalized on this immediately. They realized that a financially uneducated, highly anxious middle class was just an absolute goldmine for perpetual interest extraction.
Oh, they loved it.
They successfully sold the illusion of success on a 30-year high-interest installment plan. And they built a consumer culture completely reliant on debt, especially once we fully transitioned to a system of fiat currency to keep the treadmill running.
Wait, Ali, fiat currency sounds technical. What does that actually mean for a normal person?
Simple. It just means government-issued money that isn't backed by any physical commodity like gold or silver. Imagine it like a plastic casino chip. It only has value because the casino owner says it does, and they can print millions more whenever they feel like it, instantly diluting the exact value of the ones currently sitting in your pocket.
And that dilution is exactly why the outdated advice to just work hard and save your pennies is completely destroying the middle class today. But I want to be clear here. This isn't some dark conspiracy.
Right. It's not a secret cabal in a smoky room.
No, it is just cold, highly optimized systemic efficiency. The corporate ecosystem mathematically requires a massive, desperate, indebted labor pool to function smoothly. If you are perpetually stressed about making the next mortgage payment, you will never take the calculated entrepreneurial risks required to break out of the matrix.
You remain dependent on an employer for your basic survival. It's incredibly easy to look at that system, see that it's rigged, and just throw your hands up. But the moment you do that, you forfeit all your power. If we clearly understand this historical trap, why is it so hard for highly intelligent people to snap out of it?
Because you are fighting against deeply ingrained cognitive biases that bypass your prefrontal cortex. The corporate system exploits specific psychological glitches.
It's like what?
Well, one is the Dunning-Kruger effect applied to personal finance. People genuinely think they are better at managing money than they actually are. They read one brief post about a trending tech stock and confidently believe they're an elite analyst.
Oh man, I see that every single day. But the stronger glitch is the status quo bias, right?
Absolutely.
Human beings possess a biological preference for things to remain exactly the same, even if the current situation is quietly ruining them. The known, predictable misery of a dead-end corporate job feels biologically safer than the unknown risk of building something new.
Let's look at a fictional example to see how this paralyzes wealth generation. Think about Sarah. Sarah is a highly skilled freelance copywriter, and she's currently watching AI compress her entire industry.
Just aggressively compressing it.
Right. But instead of learning the new AI tools to multiply her output, she clings to her old manual writing process. She insists her bespoke human touch is irreplaceable.
I see this constantly. She is actively falling victim to the sunk cost fallacy. She spent 10 exhausting years manually mastering a physical craft, and she refuses to abandon that historical investment.
Exactly.
She is rejecting a technological lever purely because it invalidates her past effort.
Meanwhile, her direct digital competitor abandons the legacy way entirely. He uses trained AI models to generate 80% of the core copy instantly, edits the final 20%, and successfully steals all of Sarah's high-ticket enterprise clients because he works 5 times faster.
It's brutal.
Sarah's brain desperately wanted to maintain the comfortable status quo. She chose familiar comfort over necessary market adaptation.
It is amazing how our own biological brains betray us. And it's not just with careers, it's with the money itself. We suffer so badly from mental accounting.
Oh, mental accounting is the worst.
It's absurd. Think about the irrational way a person will instantly blow a $5,000 tax refund on a luxury vacation, just labeling it free play money.
Even though it's literally their own withheld income.
Yes. But then they fiercely agonize over taking $5,000 from their savings account to invest in vital education. A dollar is mathematically the same regardless of its source.
Exactly. But the flawed brain arbitrarily puts that tax refund in a separate imaginary envelope. This cognitive separation prevents you from viewing your total net worth as a single unified treasury. You constantly make disjointed decisions based on artificial mental buckets instead of mathematical efficiency.
Which is why we have to strip away the emotion completely. We have to look exclusively at the unforgiving mathematical mechanisms that govern modern wealth. If you do not intimately understand these variables, you are defenseless.
You really are.
And the variable the average person completely ignores is the invisible tax of inflation. People genuinely think keeping $50,000 sitting safely in a retail checking account is a responsible defensive strategy.
It is mathematically guaranteed to fail over a long timeline.
Yep.
Let's run a clear comparison. You leave $50,000 in cash for 10 years. Assume a conservative true inflation rate of 5% annually. What actually happens to that allegedly safe cash pile over a single decade?
Well, after 10 years, your physical bank balance still proudly says $50,000. But the actual real-world purchasing power of that stagnant capital has dropped to roughly $30,000.
Wow.
You silently lost $20,000 of true value without spending a single dime. The government extracted 40% of your purchasing power through monetary debasement. But strictly because the digital number on the screen didn't drop, your biological brain failed to register the trauma.
That is terrifying.
You were robbed in broad daylight. But because the bank statement didn't turn red, you smiled and thanked the system. This is exactly why wealthy people measure every single decision against their personal cost of capital, rather than just letting cash sit.
Wait, Ollie, cost of capital sounds technical. What does that actually mean for a normal person?
Simple. It just means the exact required financial return you absolutely must earn to mathematically justify spending your money or your time on a specific endeavor. Imagine it like a highly guarded toll bridge. If the toll physically cost you $10, the business deal waiting on the other side better guarantee you at least $11, or you simply do not cross the bridge.
Perfect. When you blindly leave capital dying in a checking account, your cost of capital is catastrophic because your guaranteed return is negative 5%. But the math gets even more unforgiving when we factor in opportunity cost.
Right. Every dollar you leave in a retail savings account is a soldier that cannot fight for you in the global markets. Let's take that same $50,000. Instead of hoarding it defensively, you allocate it into a broad market index fund averaging a standard 8% annual return, and you do not add another penny for 10 full years.
So the defensive saver is left with $30,000 of true purchasing power. But the educated allocator watches their $50,000 silently compound into roughly $107,000.
It's incredible.
That is a $77,000 gap in liquid net worth, created entirely by a single psychological decision to switch from defense to offense.
And we haven't even factored in the impact of traditional corporate taxes yet.
Oh, don't even get me started.
If you try to build wealth strictly through a standard W-2 corporate salary, you are paying the absolute highest legal tax rate in the entire economic system. You are taxed before you even physically see the paycheck.
Before it even hits your bank account.
Exactly. The entrepreneur and the strategic investor are taxed only after they write off their operational expenses, which literally means the entrepreneur is playing the game with pre-tax dollars while the exhausted employee is trying to survive on post-tax scraps. The fundamental math is completely rigged against the linear wage earner.
Think of the traditional employee path like attempting to fill a massive bucket with water. But there are 3 giant holes violently drilled into the bottom: high inflation, heavy taxes, and compound opportunity cost.
Just draining it out.
Right. If the water drains out through those holes faster than your salary can pour it in, sheer effort won't save you. You have to permanently plug the holes.
When you finally grasp the sheer violence of that math, the real-world consequences of staying financially ignorant become very clear. Let's directly compare 2 distinct paths to show the ultimate high-stakes reality here.
Okay, let's look at path A, the unconscious consumer.
Right. This person refuses to rewrite their money psychology. They blindly accept the lazy excuse that they are naturally bad with complex finances.
They spend the next 20 years locked inside a cycle of corporate dependency. Every single time they secure a minor salary increase, their lifestyle expenses inflate to absorb the new cash.
They impulsively finance a slightly nicer car, rent a slightly larger apartment, take slightly more expensive vacations. Their actual liquid net worth completely stagnates while their baseline physical stress level increases every single year.
And then they hit age 55 and experience a sudden corporate downsizing. Aggressive AI automation completely eliminates their middle management job overnight.
Because they possess zero capital allocation skills, they have zero defensive financial runway.
None. They are forced to liquidate penalized retirement accounts just to survive the year. They inevitably end up working a demeaning retail job well into their late 70s simply to pay for basic medical care. Their entire existence becomes a desperate sprint just to outrun poverty.
It's bleak. Now look closely at Path B, the reprogrammed allocator. This person rejects the broken code today. They intentionally live below their means for exactly 3 grueling years to stockpile investment capital.
They do the hard work up front.
Yes, they leverage premium AI tools to build highly scalable, automated digital revenue streams. By age 40, their automated software systems are actively generating significantly more monthly cash flow than their highest corporate salary ever paid. They officially achieve decoupling, which changes their entire reality.
Wait, Ali, decoupling sounds technical. What does that actually mean for a normal person?
Simple. It just means permanently breaking the absolute direct link between how many hours you physically work and how much money you actually make. Imagine it like planting a massive apple orchard. You do the grueling hard work once, and the trees aggressively continue to feed you for decades while you sleep.
I love that. Because Path B successfully decoupled their income, they possess the ultimate human luxury total autonomy. They can pivot into new markets, take calculated investment risks, or simply spend 6 months traveling without checking a bank balance. They bought back their own freedom because they mathematically understood how to deploy capital.
Path A guarantees a life of permanent corporate servitude. Path B guarantees total financial liberation. You have to consciously, intentionally choose your pain right now. The macroeconomic climate is completely irrelevant. The only variable that matters is your pure ruthlessness in capital allocation.
So here is exactly how to execute. It requires an immediate paradigm shift. You must permanently stop viewing yourself as a fragile employee who simply earns a wage and start viewing yourself as a sovereign wealth fund. You are the sole CEO of a highly scalable enterprise called your life.
So every single dollar that enters my checking account is no longer just casual spending money. It is a highly trained soldier that I must strategically deploy to capture more market territory.
Precisely. You have to destroy the comfortable victim narrative. If you continue to blame the system, you are giving the system full permission to keep you broke. You have to assume 100% accountability for your own balance sheet. That extreme accountability is the only possible foundation for wealth.
Once you accept that reality, you must execute a strict, practical framework to build your new mental infrastructure. Step 1, perform a psychological audit. You must sit down with a blank piece of paper and ruthlessly write out every single negative belief you hold about wealthy people and capital generation.
Expose your own toxic code to the light.
Exactly. Step 2, you actively build automated friction against your own worst emotional impulses.
Because you remove the fragile human element entirely from the execution.
Right. If you know you get highly emotional when the stock market drops, you completely automate your investments so you physically cannot panic sell your premium assets.
And step 3, you must upgrade your daily data inputs. You cannot fight billion-dollar consumer algorithms with sheer willpower.
No, you will lose every time.
You have to systematically saturate your mind with the exact strategic frameworks and historical data used by the financial elite. You must actively brainwash yourself for success using elite mental models.
Which is exactly why continuous audio education is an absolute requirement for modern survival. If you don't intentionally program your own mind for wealth creation, consumer algorithms will gladly program it for endless spending.
And Audible is the ultimate infrastructure for this specific psychological hacking. It is the perfect system to bypass your own lazy instincts.
It really is. You can instantly access The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, which perfectly deconstructs how these invisible mental wealth loops work and how to dominate them.
You actively use Audible to reprogram your subconscious mind while you commute, while you train in the gym, or while you build your digital business. It instantly turns your dead time into highly leveraged mental programming.
We've put the official verified links in the pinned comment below. Don't go searching randomly and get scammed. Use the ones we've checked.
Think back to the excuse that you are genetically programmed to fail.
Mhm.
The true virus isn't in your bloodline. It is in the software you willingly choose to boot up every single morning.
You have the exact tools, the exact math, and the exact frameworks to overwrite that code today.
Don't let the future leave you behind. Start earning,